Hello everyone and welcome back to another Babbling Irons video with myself and Sloth today. This one, again, the rumours are coming around Lucas Paqueta and will he stay, will he go? He's now attracting interest from the likes of Al Nassr. Again, we probably expected Saudi sides to start coming in for some of our players. I think even Kudus as well is being linked with moves to Saudi and whatnot. But Paqueta's more of a player that could potentially leave. And again, Rob Dawson of ESPN has reported that they're interested in signing Paqueta this summer, but it will be difficult with the FA charges against him currently, but they're still open to the transfer. So, I mean, we're under no kind of illusion that Paqueta's probably going to leave this summer if the FA kind of clears things up for him. Obviously, Man City was the main route for him. That may be a little bit more difficult this summer than it was last summer before the betting stuff happened, just because I think City will also have other targets. I know they're looking at likes of Bruno Guimaraes as well. Paqueta's 27 years old. He's played some fantastic football. He's obviously in the Brazil national team, played for West Ham, played for the likes of Lyon, played in Europe, played in Champions League. Do you think he'd be tempted by this sort of move to Saudi if he was to leave this summer?
I think it'd be very hard not to say that he wouldn't, because look, let's face it, he obviously feels that there's something untoward with this investigation, and you know, some of the comments and releases that have come from him, they're quite personal. I think he feels very sort of victimized by this investigation. And look, whether that's right or wrong, you know, we don't have all the facts. It does seem very loose, but you know, maybe they have evidence that we're not privy to. So I don't want to speak too soon about that, but he does seem very hurt by this. And while I do think that he would obviously prefer a move to Manchester City, maybe one of the European giants, if one of these Saudi sides came along and offered him a silly amount of money, then he's probably just going to think, right, you know, I've got my family, got my two young boys, and maybe this is the best option for us. You know, it's takes us away from all of this sort of nonsense going on, and allows me to play in peace almost.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you think he would do that sort of move? Because when he plays, you can tell he's a top competitor, wants to play at the highest level. You can see how he plays on the pitch, kind of transcribes to the way he is as a person. So I don't know. At 27 years old, you know, this is kind of what most footballers go into their peak years of football. I know the money's great. I know that, you know, that's very hard to turn down from a business perspective, but from a footballing perspective, do you think he would want to, you know, in his, you know, if he's looking in his heart, would he really want to take this move?
No. Look, I've said it a few times now. If you're a footballer and you are in your peak years and you're earning good money, you know, Paqueta's on £100,000 a week, over £100,000 a week. If you can't make that last, people go, it's generational wealth. Well, unless Saudi Arabia are offering him £800,000 a week, that's sort of massive increase. If you can't make that work for a lifetime, if you can't invest that sort of money and make it generational wealth, that's on you. You know, he signed a few years worth of a contract, and you either have very, very bad advisors or you're frittering away that sort of cash. And I think people need to stop this idea that footballers can't make their money work. Kevin De Bruyne said about it, you know, oh, I'll have a chance to earn more than I've ever earned while being a footballer. And you think, you know, I've got the world's smallest violin going for you. It's just so completely out of touch.
I think there's a footballer that stopped playing football is now like a billionaire and has like a business because of how from the money he got from football. And like,
well, I know that Flamini, it's either Flamini or he basically invested in like biofuels, and
that was it.
He's got this sort of renewable fuel business that is worth billions. But if you cannot make the money that football generates work for you, you're going to lose it anyway. So it's that sort of thing. If you are ambitious, you want to play at the highest level and back yourself to keep playing at that level, and then move to somewhere like Saudi Arabia, move somewhere like the MLS, like Messi's done.
Yeah.
But I just think that he's kind of an interesting situation because he might just feel like it's a bit of a witch hunt and move because he wants to get away from that. So that's the only thing that I can see realistically appealing to him, unless they offer a gigantic sum of money.
If he does get cleared by the FA this summer, do you expect him to leave? Whether it's for Al Nassr, whether it's for Man City, whether it's for another club, do you expect him to leave West Ham this summer?
Yeah, I think if he gets cleared, he'll leave. But
for the release clause of 85 million?
Well, we would be silly to let him leave for anything other than the release clause, unless Manchester City are offering players in that, unless they're offering a couple of their youngsters. I think we would be very silly to let him leave for less than the release clause. But it does kind of also come back to a gentleman's agreement. If we said to Paqueta last year, look, we'll let you leave for whatever City bid last season if they come back in for you, then I'm not sure what the sort of numbers we were talking about last summer were, but I think we've got to hold out strong on this. And because the release clause is all paid up front, if they want him, then they have to pay that, because that's the sort of money that can completely change a window and allow you to do lots of different things.
I think you're spot on. When Paqueta signed the contract, he knew what he was getting into. He's contracted to West Ham until 2027. That's still 3 years from now. He's still got 3 years left on his contract, which is a long time, to be honest, for a football player now. And if we want to stand firm for the release clause that's been put into that contract, we should absolutely do that. We shouldn't be kind of just giving in just because the player wants to move. I think Paqueta last summer showed that obviously not moving to Man City, it would have been a huge disappointment for him. It was a chance to play under Pep Guardiola in one of the best teams in the world. That fell through, but his performances for West Ham in the first half of the season were fantastic. He was playing some really, really good football despite what was happening off the pitch. He's obviously clearly had a lot of struggles with what's happened with this investigation. Second half of the season, and with the injuries that he suffered, he's just not been at it. And I think, as the season dwindled out, no player really was. I think everyone kind of fizzled out, to be honest. So in terms of that side of things, he hasn't really thrown his toys out the pram or anything like that, which is good. If we were to try and, take that stance of, okay, we're not going to let you go unless someone pays the release clause, and you've got Man City interested, but they don't want to pay the release clause, can you see him maybe turning a little bit the other way? Or do you think he'll play on regardless and he won't be that type of character?
I think it'd be very difficult for him not to, as I mentioned, he's clearly an emotional guy. And I think you can see that in his responses to the FA. But I think West Ham have stuck by him. And it's clear that he's very popular in the dressing room. We saw those quotes from Alvarez and about how, the dressing room have backed him, and Alvarez was someone who really kind of stuck up and was vocal in supporting him. So I'd be surprised if he did try and really force a move, just because I think he would, he'd be isolating himself from me. He'd be sort of ostracizing himself. But at the same time, when these mega clubs come calling, it's very, very hard for a player not to try and force his hand. It's just a case of whether I think he almost has an obligation to West Ham as well, because we backed him in this and we will have been helping support him through all of it. So
I don't think it will matter at the end of the day. Like I completely agree, but think about recent situations. Payet, where he was given a new contract after 6 months, showing him that commitment. And
but Payet would. I mean, Payet. Look, let's be honest about this. Payet was sticking his wick where it wasn't it wasn't supposed to go. Let's just call it that. Lucas
And on
Paqueta,
Altovich as well with Charney. With Charney, I called him Arnie. With China.
well, but again, these are sort of, you know, Arnautovic showed his colours long before that.
Yeah.
You know,
His
so
brother was a nightmare as well, wasn't he? His agent.
Exactly. And Paqueta's very much a family man. You know, I bloody lifted his family over the fence in Prague to get him on the pitch. So you know, it's he's very clearly got his head screwed on right. I don't think he'd be, you know, stropping too much, but I think he's clearly emotional, and he may well throw his toys out the pram, but I don't think he would go on strike or anything like that. So it's a very tricky one. I'd be surprised if Manchester City try and mess around after last summer. I think if they want him and they come back in for him, they'll just move and make a statement to the FA and the Premier League almost. But it's I'd be very disappointed if he does. Really disappointed.
Yeah, I think he will leave this summer if he's cleared. I don't think he will go to Saudi. I don't think Al Nassr. I don't think he'd be interested in that right now. As much as, you know, the money would probably be tempting, I think he'd rather join Man City if that option's there. Personally, at this stage of his career, it's hard for us because we don't know how long this investigation is going to take. We don't know when or if he will be cleared at some point in this summer transfer window. Ideally, you know, if he is to hypothetically want to leave, or we've got something in place with a gentleman's agreement, you'd want it done earlier, you know, sooner rather than later. We don't want this kind of lingering as we go into August when the season started, because then you're trying to scramble for recruitment and replacements. It becomes a tougher task. So, yeah, I think for me, if Paqueta does go, I can't see it being to somewhere like Al Nassr. I think it will be somewhere like Man City, or, you know, for a better club that's, you know, competing in the Champions League, or you know, on the highest stage. So yeah, let us know what you think of the rumors of Paqueta leaving for Saudi. Do you see it happening? Maybe you think differently to me and Sloth's views. So yeah, let us know in the comments. Leave a like on the video as always if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. And Sloth, until the next one.
Come on, you Irons.